Behind me is my F80 M3. I've owned this car for 3.5 years, and I really haven't shown it much on this channel. When I first got it, I did a couple of mods here and there, but besides that, we really haven't done much to it, and it's finally time to change that. So while the car was sitting, we had quite a few things to, keep it in storage, keep everything maintained so, nothing really degrades. So we had all of the tire pressures aired up a little bit more than it needed to be. We had the battery tender on the back. Fun fact, on the F80s, and I believe some of the newer F chassis cars in general, they have the lithium batteries. So it's not a normal AGM or normal standard battery. It's a lithium battery which requires a special battery tender. So if you guys are going to be purchasing one of these new cars, that's something that you want to have, something that can support those type of batteries. One of the mods that we did do on here was the air suspension. So when you have air suspension on your car, if you're going to be storing it, or especially even in the winter and stuff like that, you want to make sure there's no fluid getting into those air lines. So you want to make sure you're draining out that tank. What I did was I actually just had it completely aired out on blocks. That way there was no load on the suspension, everything was just settling, and that even kept some of the weight off of the tires as well. So, I just put it underneath the jack pads, some 4x4s, just lowered it, aired it out. And that's the cool thing about air suspension. I mean, you can adjust the height and everything. And some people might be wondering, why put air ride on an M3? And don't knock it until you try it. It honestly feels amazing. We took it all on the canyon runs and all of that with the air ride, and it felt great. And I'm super excited to take it on this next road trip that I'm about to take it on as soon as we're done here. So let's just do some, normal maintenance. We're gonna do an oil change on here. We're gonna look at the health of everything else while we're down here. Eventually, I do wanna change out the rest of the fluids. So the car's approaching 60,000 miles, and that's when, all the maintenance starts happening. So be on the lookout for a bunch of DIYs on here. That's part of the reason we don't really have too much on here, because it didn't need much, and I didn't feel like, just wasting my time taking stuff apart when it didn't need it. But let's just get cracking. Let's get this oil out of here and get some fresh oil in here. So unlike the E46 and that era of cars, you actually have to have a special adapter in order to remove the oil filter cap. So we don't even have that emboss on here where you can usually just put a 36mm socket. Now you have to have this adapter. So since we're doing the oil change, before I get it up all the way on the lift, I like to loosen up the oil filter. That way it starts draining and gets as much of the oil out as we can. And it's also a good idea, if you had a dipstick, take the dipstick out, but there's no dipstick on here. So it's also a good idea to loosen your oil fill cap. Let's just hope this doesn't make a mess.
Would you prefer a dipstick?
I love dipsticks, honestly. No, I didn't mean it like that. But dipsticks make it so much easier to check your oil. I mean, yes, technology is the future, but come on now. Sensors go bad, especially with BMWs. We know how it is. So are we really gonna, trust our engine's life on one sensor? It's a little risky if you ask me. And speaking of engine life, so the F80 M3s, this is a S55 engine. They are plagued with one very, very bad issue that can pretty much kaput the motor, and that is the crank hub. So, this is a turbo engine. So with turbos, we can up the power just with a simple tune. And main reason we haven't done any kind of tuning or anything on this is because I'm kind of scared of that crank hub, and I definitely want to take care of that first before we do any kind of tunes or up the power. So that DIY is going to be something else, because it's a procedure. But that definitely has to be done before we turn anything up on here. Don't spill. Oh, they couldn't hear it? Maybe they could. It started bubbling, and that's releasing that seal, so the oil starts draining back in to the oil pan. And I did already warm it up a little bit, so all the oil is circulating. That's just gonna make it easier for it to come out. Oh my God, there's surface rust on the exhaust. You know what that means?
What?
I think we're gonna have to buy a new exhaust, because we can't have that. No, I'm kidding. We're putting a whole new exhaust on here. Not right now, but it's almost here, so hopefully very, very soon. And one thing I don't like, but we knew that this car, when we bought it, it was an East Coast car, so we actually bought it in Georgia, and then we had drove it back to California. But you can see right here, so all these exhaust bolts are pretty rusty. And that, I mean, that's the norm. That's gonna be, even on a California car, you're gonna find some rust on these, but that means we gotta get new downpipes too. I'm kidding, those are on the way too. They're on the way. I'm super excited because S55, even though we own it, does not sound the best. You know, it's one of the worst sounding BMW engines, but hopefully this exhaust system changes that. I mean, I've seen some single, or I've heard some single turbo S55s, and oh, those sound amazing. So if this new exhaust system doesn't solve our sound issue, that means that we're going to have to buy a single turbo kit. But first we got to do that crank hub. All right, enough talking. Let's get this oil drained out. And it has to be a BMW, right? So we've got some oil residue, oil buildup. When we're upgrading the crank hub, we have to remove a lot of this stuff. So the oil pan comes off, all of that. And I mean, that's also part of the reason that I've been waiting on doing a lot of the maintenance, because now that it's at 60,000 miles, it's gonna need a lot of the stuff. So valve cover, it's gonna need spark plugs again. So it should have been changed at 30,000, and now it's gonna need them again. And when we do that crank hub, all those seals, everything is pretty much gonna get overhauled. And we'll have DIYs on all of it. So it's a win-win for everybody. So I mean, there's not really much to see down here either because everything is covered for aerodynamic. So I guess that's, yeah, aerodynamics. Okay, Miss English teacher over there. Damn, who put this? So I mean, I guess that's a good thing, right? Because if everything is covered, if you don't see any oil leaks, then is it actually even leaking? Ooh, wait, is this the oil? Yeah. Imagine. Let's see if I can get it off without getting any on my hand. No, I still got it on my hand. The F80s really don't need much because, I mean, what else are you gonna do? Just put out a couple of carbon fiber things. It's already got a wide body on it. It's already got the M bumpers that you would do if you had a non-M. So, I mean, there's not really much else to do cosmetically. We did those tail lights. We did put some carbon fiber stuff. I think I want to get more carbon fiber stuff as well. But one thing that we need to put back on is the lip. So we had taken the lip off when we had it transported to the Carolinas because obviously we didn't want to get it damaged on the way here. So let's put that back on. And that kind of hides all these scratches from the previous owner because they didn't know how low the car was apparently. And that was on stock suspension. They should have put that air ride on it, you see? Another perk of air ride. You can just lift up.
You like coilovers too, don't you?
Oh, I love coilovers, don't get me wrong. Honestly, if this was a track car, there's no question I would go coilovers. I mean, with the air ride, it handles as good as you need it to handle for the street. You know, it's not like I'm over here doing time attacks on the street or, racing somebody like that in the canyons. Most canyons are one-lane roads. So I'm gonna drive to, have fun. But that is one thing about the F80. It's not like, with E46, you go on 60, 70 through some turns, and that adrenaline gets pumping. On here, you gotta push it. You really have to push it because it is so well engineered. I mean, it just grips and it feels so good. I mean, don't get me wrong, if you wanna put it sideways, it goes sideways too. Just gotta hit one button and it's going as sideways as you want it to. But the E46 is just, that's got a special place in my heart. F80 does one thing really, really well, and I think all newer M cars do one thing really well. They are amazing daily drivers, honestly. Like in stock form, they are perfect dailies. This gives better gas mileage than any of our cars. It's like 24, 25 miles per gallon. Obviously, when you're just driving normally, the LS E46 gets around that on the freeway as well. It's almost 11 something. I've got to wake up at 4 a.m. so I can head to Wookiees in the Woods, if you guys haven't heard of it. I know it's a Volkswagen show, but I haven't went to the Tail of the Dragon ever since we moved back. I'm gonna take the car there. This is gonna be our first outing with the F80. I'm super excited. All right, let's put the lip on it while we're here. This lip already has some boo-boos, even though we got air ride on it. So I guess I'm kind of a crappy driver too, because I was talking shit about the previous person. But this is actually from those crazy dips in California. I think we were on our way back from the canyons, and I mean, we were on normal ride height, and it just, went through the dip. We were going like 30, 40 miles an hour, and watcha. There and there. This one is actually kind of bad. It actually Put a little hole in it. But hey, I know people that go through lips like once a month. I don't know how people got money like that. That's like, this lip was I think what, $400 or $500 I think?
What?
Wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah, I think so. This thing's been dripping for like 15 minutes. I'm running out of patience. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on because we're gonna change the oil so frequently anyways. Doesn't matter. So how's it still gonna be dripping? We put a lip on. I looked over the rest of the car. And this thing is still dripping. You know what I really want? I want one of those dry ice cleaners. I'm sure you guys have seen them on YouTube where there's like dry ice blasting. All of this stuff will look brand new. If I had that, I don't think y'all will see anything else but dry ice cleaning. That's it. And we have enough cars to do it on. But that thing is like, I think 15 grand. I'd rather buy a couple other cars. Well, maybe not in this market. I'll probably buy a couple, maybe one car. What you laughing at still? There we go. And that right there will be $150. Not really. Maybe a little bit more.
Dang.
Yeah. Well, we haven't got to the good part yet.
The oil?
Yep. So most M cars, even up to like the E92, E90 M3s, even the E60 M5s, they used to all use 10W60. So this one technically requires 5W30. I usually run the Motul 5W40 8100, and I run that on pretty much all of these newer turbo engines. It does really well. Another oil that does really well, like on the N54s, N55s, is the Shell Rotella. And that's like a diesel oil, at least that's what the common conception is. But those diesel oils are a lot cleaner, so I mean it works really well on those turbo engines. But I don't know if it works that well on this S55, and I don't want to be the first one to try. But honestly, I mean, oil, at the end of the day, if it's a good quality oil, if you're changing it on time, and it's not super, super thick or super, super thin, and it meets the specs at least, you're gonna be fine. All right, let's see. No, I don't like that orientation. There, see? Pointing in the front. But it's still a little crooked. Why would they have it so it's crooked? Like, you see that? If you're saying right here, it's crooked. Yeah, that's not cool. And BMW does not recommend Castrol anymore. Now they recommend Shell. Or not even that, I think they just have their own house brand now. All right, well, I think that sums it up for shop time with the F80. I'll see you guys in the morning when we are on the road on the way to Tail the Dragon. I don't even think I'm gonna sleep. I'm so excited. I'm just gonna sit back and admire the car for a couple more, maybe 30 minutes or so before I go upstairs. A couple hours later, I was finally behind the wheel, heading to the Wookiees in the woods. The event takes place near the Tail of the Dragon in the North Carolina mountains, which is also home to the Blue Ridge Parkway. The Blue Ridge Parkway has some of the most beautiful driving roads on the East Coast, and even the trip there from Charlotte is very calming and fun to drive. I was not expecting it to be so cold in April, but that was the least of my worries since it shortly started to snow. I still had a great drive there, with the occasional bouts of snow, rain, sleet, and even some beautiful sunrise moments. That's the definition of North Carolina weather for you. The 4.5 hour drive though was only the beginning of the day. I got to the Fontana Dam around 9:30 a.m. right before the Wookiees parade to the Tail of the Dragon. The Tail of the Dragon parade was set to start around 10 a.m., but after seeing the road conditions, I decided not to risk it and just hung out at the Fontana Village with the many others that decided not to go. Even though the Wookiees event is actually based around the VW R32 model because the engine actually sounds like a Wookiee, so that's why they call it Wookiees in the Woods. But even though it was a VW event, there were a few BMWs there, and even some other Volkswagen models. Some of the rare Spectrum models also showed up. The cold, snowy, rainy, sleety weather did not stop this Volkswagen crowd from coming out. A lot of the individuals were camping over there for a couple of days, and everybody was just chilling, literally, and having a good time. The turnout was really awesome. This event is unlike any other. It will be hard not to make new friends at Wookiees, regardless of what they drive. The volunteers that make this event happen are truly amazing and some of the nicest people around. After an amazing day, I decided to head back home while the sun was setting through the beautiful North Carolina mountains. I can't wait for the next round of mods and upgrades on the F80 so we can bring it back to the Dragon, hopefully with some better weather. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys in our next video.